Hi, welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me today, my special guest, Battalion Chief Brad Davis. Brad, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely, Chief. Thanks for having me.
Now, we want to mention that you're probably going to hear some radio traffic in the background, and that's because Brad is on duty today and has to be available to respond, so he has his radio on in the background. But with that, Brad, you run our Hazmat program for us. You have for years with Captain Mongo.
Yes.
And right now we have a Hazmat class going on at CARTA. Tell us about the class. Why is this important? Who's in it? You know, what's it for?
Okay. What's going on at CARTA right now is a Hazmat technician class.
Okay.
So it's 200 hours, 5 weeks, 8-hour days, 5 days a week.
Oh, wow.
For 5 weeks. So it's 200 hours of advanced training beyond the operational level, which is what our folks on the fire trucks are trained to that level,
Okay.
as operations level. So this is 200 hours of advanced training beyond that to become a certified Hazmat technician.
So what's a Hazmat technician do?
Lots of stuff. There's a lot to it. I mean, I just started making some notes earlier, knowing I was coming in here for the podcast, thinking of the different things that they cover in the class without looking at their syllabus. And I filled out a list here. They cover so much. So a lot of advanced things that they're learning in the class. So
Okay.
when our fire engines arrive with folks that are at the operational level, there's certain tasks and things they can complete, keeping them and the public safe, gathering information, making a safe area
Okay.
to work in. But if it's something more advanced that needs some sort of mitigation from a Hazmat technician, we have to wait for those folks to arrive from the closest Hazmat station.
Right.
So
we did a podcast with Mongo before, Captain Olson, and he talked about all of the Hazmat stuff that's in our area that people don't think about. So I think it would be fun at this point for a quick quiz. Kathy.
No.
What are some of the places that you would expect to, or maybe wouldn't expect to find a hazardous material in Prescott Valley?
Places I would not expect to find one?
But it's there. Things that Captain Olson
Oh,
had
like
mentioned.
a restaurant.
Very good. She's
Woo!
on top of it. What's a bigger one? A bigger one.
Finley Toyota Center.
Finley Toyota Center. Yes, that is a bigger one. See, she passed the quiz.
yes.
But
Yes.
I don't think a lot of folks realize in the area how important our Hazmat technicians are and the regional approach. I think we need to give a quick shout out to the city of Prescott because it's a regional Hazmat team. The costs are shared as far as our equipment and the apparatus. But this class, we have how many new personnel are going through the class?
We
for
have a
us?
total of 10 students that will be on our Hazmat team. So 6 of those are from CAFMA
Okay.
and 4 are from Prescott Fire Department. So when they get out of class, they'll all be part of what we call our Prescott Area Hazardous Materials Response Team.
Okay.
Some of them will be divvied up to the Hazmat stations, which are either Station 75 on Highway 69 for Prescott Fire. That's their Hazmat station. And then ours, of course, is Station 58 on Robert Road.
Okay. Besides Prescott and CAFMA, who else has people in this particular class?
We have people from Eloy in the class, Williamson Valley Fire, Baghdad. I don't recall if there's any mayor folks included in that mix with Williamson
Okay.
Valley. We have students from Cottonwood also.
So when we talk about CARTA being a true regional training academy, it is truly a regional training academy. And right now we have Hazmat coming up next month. We're going to host the Captain's Academy, which will bring people again from the Valley, from Northern Arizona, and from our area. But right now we're going to get back, focus more on Hazmat. Now, I think I was a glowworm once. That's what we call some of the Hazmat. It's
Glowworm, Hazmat nerd,
Right.
Mop and Glow boys. There's all kinds of names for
Yeah.
Hazmat techs.
Can I use
think-
those in
I
the
think-
title?
yes.
Glowworm boys? What?
Glowworm.
Yeah, when people use these terms to describe Hazmat techs, I just attribute that to jealousy,
Right.
because we are an elite
Very
team
good.
of with some advanced capabilities with Hazmat stuff.
Well, and Hazmat, you're right. And, we refer to science nerds, but really that's what Hazmat is. You're dealing with chemicals and you have to understand off-gassing. You have to understand weather patterns and what interacts with what. It's been years since I did hazmat, and I went to a major incident. And at the end of it, this is back in like the mid '90s, and it was at a grain. I can't think of the name of the type of environment, but like a co-op. So there's all kinds of chemicals, and it was all on fire. And at the end of the incident, they came to us and they're like, "Hey, listen, the wind shifted and you were all exposed to some nasty stuff. So if you die, make sure you go to the hospital. If you start growing any extra limbs, feeling weird, go to the hospital. We've already notified them." And I was like, you know what? This was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
So I backed out. But that, again, mid 90s versus where we are today with hazmat and hazardous materials response, huge difference.
Yes. It's come a long ways over the years. I went through tech class in 1996, and the technology in the metering for air monitoring devices that we use now compared to back then, and the price,
right?
The corresponding price is just, crazy.
It was 96 or 97 when I went through.
Okay.
So we were about the same time.
Yep.
So what else about hazmat? What other things can you share with us that you think are important for the public to know and even our internal folks?
Well, just talking about common calls, I think we touched on this, or you guys did with Rick when he was in. I would say residential responses are more common than to these facilities and businesses.
Right.
We have the capabilities we have because there could be a need with those businesses, and luckily our local industry and commercial properties do a real good job of taking care of their stuff. But some of the common stuff we go on: natural gas and propane leaks, carbon monoxide. Not CO2. People call them CO2 detectors. They're carbon monoxide detectors, which is CO. But how we get involved in that beyond just the typical engine company responding is the meters that we need to use and the numbers that come across on those meters. That needs to be taken in by a hazmat technician to interpret those numbers and then decide what we're going to do. So that requires, when we go to these calls, that we get the hazmat techs in there to do that monitoring, interpret those numbers on the meters, and then decide how we're going to mitigate whatever issue if they find one.
Well, and you've got on the apparatus, the hazmat apparatus, you have computers on that apparatus, so you can do research on scene. I think it would be good, Kathy, sometime to take the GoPro and go out and do like a short walkthrough.
Yeah, we could do that.
That truck is our pride and joy. We love that thing. What I talking to people that are hazmat techs from outside of our area. Right. I always brag about our regional team in the fact that hazmat truck, when we purchased it in 2016. It was a joint purchase between Prescott Fire and us. So on the actual printed Arizona title, it says Central Arizona Fire and Prescott Fire, both printed on the title, because we both split the bill in half.
But when we do the walkthrough, why don't we have somebody from Prescott come in, and it can be a joint walkthrough where you all can show off that apparatus. I think it's important for the community to see that, because not only is that funded through Prescott and Central Arizona Fire, but we also get funding from the county, from emergency management, other folks that pay into hazmat. And that's what really makes it a regional, not just a regional resource, but a county-wide resource. And a lot of folks don't think about it because it's out of sight, out of mind, but there's railroad tracks up in Paulden, and that is within our jurisdiction. That's our responsibility. So if something were to happen with a train coming through, the hazmat team would respond to that.
Yeah, and really we can go, as a hazmat team, we can respond anywhere within the county or the state if requested. And we do have a lot of outlying areas in Yavapai County that don't have a fire department response where we could, and we've been called to some of those areas in the past. You mentioned the funding. That's a huge part of this class. We didn't have to pay anything for tuition. So DEMA, Department of Emergency and Military Affairs, they covered the cost of the class. They're paying the instructors. They paid for the tuition, so we didn't have to pay anything for that. We provided the facility, obviously using CARTA, which is a great place to use for any kind of training. So there's a lot of input from that. Yavapai County Emergency Management had to actually apply for the class for us once we voiced the need to have put on a class. So they started that process for us, and the state took it from there. Over the last, I was looking at this earlier, over the last 7 years, we're closing in. We're right around the $100,000 mark in hazmat equipment.
Wow.
Meters and devices that we've gotten through grant processes through the state.
Well,
So
we're
it's a big
very
part of it.
fortunate here with our emergency management. We have Ashley in there as the emergency management director, and she is just absolutely fantastic. She is a great emergency manager to work with, very progressive. And then at the state level, and I think this is a good time to point out the importance of the work we do at the state level sometimes. I was talking to you, I think when I came in, I said, hey, I've got to read through this bill, EMAC, ASMAC, the emergency response compacts. As part of the overall piece that I'm working on of legislation, it includes the funding that emergency management uses at the state level through DEMA for training. So I'm actually working directly with the emergency manager director who's at DEMA to ensure that there is funding in the state moving forward for hazmat as well as for all hazard response. But that's why it's so important that we're involved, because here we are, we have a class that would be very expensive. It's expensive enough just for the backfill. You figure 6 people off the engine for 5 weeks.
Yes, and we're hoping to get some help with that too. The Arizona State Emergency Response Commission found some funding that when the class is over, we're going to be submitting some payroll records that we're hoping to get a portion of what we've spent to cover those. Because those that are in the class, they're put on a 40-hour schedule. They're not working their shifts on the fire truck anymore. They are in hazmat class for 5 weeks. So their spots on the fire trucks have to be filled while they're in class. So we're hoping to get some of that back. Again, through grants. The state funding with all these things is a huge deal. You mentioned Ashley, so got to be sure to mention her on here and invite her that she would be a wonderful guest
She would be
on the
a wonderful guest
podcast
on the
someday.
podcast.
So you're welcome, Ashley.
And one thing I want to clarify, because when you say they found money and it's a governmental entity, there are people who believe that the government just hides money, or we identified available resources that could be used for.
Yep.
See how we do that?
Yes.
So this is great information, though, because I think it's important to keep and highlight, keep hazmat in the forefront so the community understands what it is you're doing and why it's important, why we needed to identify new hazmat members, because we have people retiring, right? So it's important to have the class, and the intensity, the things that they learn in the program, and it's not something that stops when you're done with the 5 weeks.
Yeah, that gives them the basis. Their first week is chemistry, so I'm talking about the different things that they cover. That's like Hell Week or whatever. Yeah. And I texted a few of them during the first week, which is chemistry week, about, man, are you staying afloat? How's it going? They cover so much in there, but then so much more they're going to get when they're done with class and they each go to their respective hazmat teams. Right. Because we do a couple of monthly trainings and learning more specifically how we do stuff. They'll be getting so much more training, and it's a constant. I'm still learning hazmat things every day, and will until I retire. And that's like any other thing with our jobs, is that we're learning and until we're no longer doing this anymore. And hazmat is no exception. There's so much to learn, and people will find their niches within the hazmat team. Certain things that interest them more than others. I'm really into the monitors and the air monitoring stuff. Right. I'm not the chemist on the team. That wasn't Mongo? That wasn't my strongest. I don't believe it's him. However, his chemistry skills probably do improve as long as that intake of food level is kept
we have to
where
keep
it needs to be.
We're not just, Mongo, just so you know, we're not getting you a chemistry lab set up at Station 58. I'd be afraid for the station. He's a smart dude, but when you give B shift, especially B shift Station 58, something like that, something is going to blow up.
Yes.
So best not to provide that to him. Well, Brad, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this opportunity. I appreciate you giving a shout out to the state regarding the funding and how they're helping us, because I think it's important for people to realize that relationship that exists and how things happen, especially with something as large as hazmat.
We would not be able to, and their instructors are from different departments around the state. Real quickly, I wanted to mention to the TENS of
Tens of
viewers. Print Pack, one of our local businesses, donated a couple of plastic 55-gallon drums that they're actually utilizing out there for training, putting water in them, punching holes in them,
Awesome.
working on containment and taking care of leaks and whatnot. Also, M&I Metals here in Prescott Valley did a facility tour. So the whole class met us over there at their facility, and they did a tour through their whole place and their whole process and what chemicals they have on hand there and where they store them and all that. So it's awesome, the help all the way around we get from all these folks.
It's one of the great things about Prescott Valley and our community overall, the Quad Cities, is the willingness of the business community to work with us to improve the knowledge of our members, the working knowledge, because it's hands-on stuff. And we were just at, Kathy, you were with me yesterday. We're recording on Wednesday, so Tuesday this week was the first State of the Town event. And hearing about where the town's going, I think that was Siri, sorry about that. Just hearing more about the town's plans and vision for the future. And they talked a lot about the relationships. And I think the Quad Cities, Prescott Valley, are built on relationships, and that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
So, Kathy, with that, if you would kind of close us out with who are we hiring for and when do the applications need to be in?
Yes. Well, we just finished up the round for finance specialists. So what we're doing right now is firefighter recruit, and that closes February 8th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
So if you or someone you know is interested in being a firefighter, clearly we are the premier place to work.
Absolutely.
So make sure you get your application in. Make sure you have all the documentation, because you cannot hit submit unless you have all the documentation required. Get that in, and we hope to see you in the oral interviews very soon. With that, Brad, thank you for being here. Kathy, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.